Hi, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025, and our dear friend Andrei Martyanov is here with us. Welcome back, Andrei.
My pleasure.
Let me start, Andrei, with the US national security strategy. Everybody's talking about it and some sort of changes, important changes, you see in this new document. What is your understanding of the new document and how much of difference do you see when you compare it to the previous one from the Biden administration?
Or it's if let's start from the end. If comparing to Biden administration, it's a revolutionary action. It's revolutionary not only from Biden administration. It's revolutionary from any type of the national security strategies which has been ever produced in the post-World War II period. And obviously, we have to wait and see how far it gets in practical terms. But the most significance of this document not in what it tries to accomplish practically. We know that most of it probably will not see the really light of the day. But it's in the fact that it indicates that there is a strong faction within Trump administration which understands the situation, and they understand basically the conundrum which they find the United States in, and that is one of the chapters there in the what is called fuller version. We didn't see it yet, but number of the media outlets saw it. The full, long, so to speak, national security strategy is the fact that hegemony is not achievable. It never was. That's what I've been preaching for almost 20 years. These are all delusions. It was created by neocons, and so the fact that it's being repudiated now, it's like, wow. Even this fact of those words, that they have been produced from the White House is revolutionary. Because essentially it reduces United States to where it is. It's just another superpower, with at some point of time grossly embellished, grossly exaggerated, BS, especially from neocons and liberal interventionists. All of them are essentially neocons, and the United States simply doesn't have resources to do anything. They would love to, obviously, now to concentrate on the Western Hemisphere, but that's the whole other story. And but the fact that there's revolutionary things there, like creating the strategic stability between Russia and the United States and cooperating on the number of. It's like, wow, dude, this is and of course it is essentially admission that Europe is done. So it's the United States is simply shuts Europe off because Europe has no future.
But do you think that Europe is in the process of getting that, or they're somehow ignoring what has happened, what has been mentioned in this document?
As I state nonstop, the Western elites are so degenerative that many of them are genuine articles. They believe that they are great, they are absolutely irresistible. They don't understand their cities are trash. They do not have actual indigenous population. Some places like France, it's the whole other story. And their countries are essentially disintegrating economically. They killed their industries, and as such, they bet their house on defeating Russia, which is not a good idea. But again, they're not very bright people. Some of them are in panic, but some of them they're in panic because they are afraid for their position in politics, position as the heads of state, or like Macron and Starmer. But they are full of excrement, always were. And we saw the degeneracy of the European whole civilization for the last 30 years. And elites are totally in concert with this degeneration. And yeah, I'm not envious of Europeans' fate. I'm talking about average European people. So it's pretty bad. It's already bad what is happening, and it's going to be much, much worse. And now, obviously, they are shocked by the fact that the United States de facto tells that, guys, you're done. We are on our way, and that's what the next question which you're going to be asking. It is late, but still, it's kind of indicative of how the at least very large part of Washington begins to think.
When you look at the document, it seems that they're somehow accepting the reality of the war in Ukraine and
Yeah.
going on in Ukraine. On the other hand, Andre, you see when they put China as their enemy,
Mhm.
it doesn't go that far. Why is that? Do you think that they're trying to somehow, separate Russia from China?
Oh
Is
yeah.
that the same?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the thing. And many people do not understand that Russians can see through really easily. So, yeah, it's all attempts to, kind of especially today with Tucker Carlson quip, what he recorded in the video that, yeah, which is true, by the way, that United States and Russia actually are closest friends, should be closest friends and are natural allies. Yeah, actually, Russia and United States were supposed to be closest allies. But, well, the time is over for that. And but yeah, it's kind of like afterthought that, oh my God, what did we do? But yeah, it is all about it's in the main vein, so to speak, of the anti-Chinese politics or policy, if you wish, within the United States. And there are all kinds of factors which influence this, including the fact that if those people understand what happened in Europe, they understand that China economically simply won, period. It's a monstrous economy, gigantic, largest economy in the world by far, and nothing they can do. So, I mean, they lost the time. Remember, Vladimir Putin was asking, hey, let us join NATO. So Russians asked at the start of NATO, let us in. But strategy is like a gravity. It's not a pleasant thing when you do not know how to do strategy and understand what you are dealing with. So they didn't understand it. And in historical terms, they miscalculated so much that, yes, Europe and European civilization is pretty much over, and it's a subservient, vassal, whatever it is, structure. European Union will disintegrate. It's de facto is disintegrating, and this is just the start of the processes which doomed Western civilization as the hegemon for the last 500 years.
Andre, you still see in the document the policy of zero sum game.
Of course,
You know,
that's
but
American
that's
way.
not the policy of Russia or China.
No,
They
uh,
see partnership. They see, common ground.
yeah, that's the American way, and it's gonna take some time getting unused to the fact that somehow United States can, what, uh, dictate some kind of conditions it can't. It doesn't have resources or ability to do so. Uh, Again, United States remains superpower for a number of reasons. Obviously, the scale of the economy, it's a large economy. It's second economy in the world, definitely, although declining dramatically, and it has been deindustrialized catastrophically. But still, it has a large population. United States has resources, a lot. So it just no matter how they, United States and Canada, of course, which is the whole other story, they handle this. But and of course, yeah, it's a nuclear power, and it's a major nuclear power, second nuclear power in the world. And but yeah, they still think that they can play zero sum game. They can't, and they never could actually. So, and even the chapter which says hegemony is not achievable, yeah, how about that? Let's start from there. We can build from there, we can dance from there and get into something positive. So, and this is still American old habit, to judge itself as the, preeminent everything, the greatest thing, in history. But the reality is United States has to, basically accommodate itself to the realities where it's just another power, major power, so, and it has to live with that and then try to play not zero sum game, but to carve for itself the niche, which it can, obviously, and it will be afforded this niche, that, yeah, and after that, we should be in a much more stable situation.
Yeah, you've mentioned that it seems that after releasing this document, Europe is in a in some sort of panic.
It's shock. Yeah,
And,
they're shocked.
yeah. And here is, what the NATO Secretary General said. It shows the panic, by the way.
Yeah.
Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. When I became NATO Secretary General last year, I warned that what is happening in Ukraine could happen to allied countries too. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side. It is not. The time for action is now. Conflict is at our door. Russia has brought war back to Europe. And we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured. Imagine it. A conflict reaching every home.
It's somehow
He's an idiot. I mean,
the
he's an idiot. Yeah.
desperation is just
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, he's an idiot. Most of the NATO political top and military top are imbeciles, and so yeah, you have to look at it. Just yeah, it's a panic, and yeah, those slogans are funny at best because you're looking at the again well, essentially, for example, France is turning into a third world country. So is Germany. They don't understand. United Kingdom is not even on the horizon. They have their residual, technological expertise because they used to be one of the great, actually, air power, and they had the capabilities, especially in commercial and combat aviation, which is gone, but still they retain some. If you look at Rolls-Royce, for example, okay, same goes for France. But other than that, yeah, look at, I mean, they are. So yeah, and they got the message that we don't need you anymore. You are merely they are lunch. Period. United States needs to eat too. NATO is United States. That's it. Lord Ismay, obviously he was British, he British love to all kinds of figures of speech, and but he was very correct when he stated about NATO that NATO is created to keep us in, Germans down, and Russians out. So while the problem is for them now, Russians do not want Europe. That's the thing which they don't understand. The whole task for the Russian army, for example, of cleaning their stinky Paris, from rats and toilets and the Russian engineering corps going there, is like terrifying for Russians. So let them get into, live in the sewer. So, and be done with it. Militarily, they are insignificant. It's pathetic. And so, yeah, because obviously NATO is United States, always was, and so now that United States says it, just go screw yourself, buy weapons from us. Sure, okay, well, let's go. Live with that. Nothing they can do about it.
Andre, he said that we are running out of time and we have to act. What sort of action they're talking about? What sort of act would be, in their mind, in your opinion? Is that they want to? I don't know what else can they do in Ukraine unless they go with these terrorist attacks.
That's the only thing they can do. Terrorism. Period. They Bundeswehr is a joke. French army is a joke, with the exception of the nuclear deterrent. United Kingdom doesn't have army. Italian army is a joke. So yeah, they may get like, oh my God, let's put together like 100,000 people. Okay, put 100,000 people. Hey, go, just declare the damn draft. So and see what's gonna happen. When you have. Did you go to my? Yeah, I'm not gonna go there. Anyhow, the point is to do what? With what? Militarily and technologically, they are backward. They are not in the same league. They are way behind United States, while the United States is way behind Russia technologically in terms of their military technology. And so, yeah, they can try to do whatever they want. It's going to be laughable, and they will kill very many of their own people. And maybe Russians will have to kind of do the parking lot thing on, whatever the Brussels, it's Russians can do it without use of the nuclear weapons. They just simply, wipe it out and be done with it, and then Europeans might wake up one day and say, we are free from the problem. Of course, Europe has been so emasculated, so brainwashed that I don't think they can come back.
I don't know if you saw the video Donald Trump talking about his phone call with Europeans. you don't feel that there was a a kind sort of talk between the two parts. Here is what Donald Trump said, Andre.
European Union today. I think, sir, I did. Could you tell us about that? And is there a new revised peace plan that Ukraine has presented? The leaders of France, we spoke to, and Germany, and UK, all very good leaders, very good friends of mine. And we discussed Ukraine in pretty strong words. And we'll see what happens. I mean, we're waiting to hear answers before we progress.
Yeah, in pretty strong words, it means that there's some tensions between the United
Oh, no, there
States
are
and
huge tensions
European
now.
Union.
And some people, for some reason, believe that it's a good cop, bad cop, while in not understanding that there are real contradictions. Because, for example, UK and France, they bet their house on defeating Putin. Okay, they are morons, as most of them are. They planned that, they thought that they will, you know what, they will bog Russians in Ukraine, that Russians in 2 weeks, well, they will lose. They still believe that Russians lost a million people. But then again, they are not strong in basic arithmetic, forget about mathematics and military science. But, and then, of course, those sanctions from hell, they will force Russians to rise up. And, they still think that Russians live in 1990s, which tells you everything that you need to know. Again, I am on record. I will repeat it again. Political elites, including some huge portion of military elites in the West, are morons. They are incompetent, nincompoop. And that's why they thought that, oh, yeah, let's bet the house on that. We get they still play with those cretins like Kasparov and those marginalized nut jobs, and they call it Russian opposition. They're not Russian opposition. They're laughed at, in Russia. And even liberal pro-Western circles, they don't want to deal with them. So, and when you look at this, what they were thinking, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Sochi, Vladivostok, they make those European cities look like, which they are actually, crap holes, essentially, filled with crime, the ethnic tensions and things of this nature. And yeah. And they thought that, yeah, we're so attractive that Russians dream about, just like the Lambrecht, the former defense minister of Germany, said, yeah, here is the sanctions. Putin will not be able to shop in Paris. Oh my God, Putin almost had a stroke. Listen to it. These people are idiots. They are complete idiots. They do not understand real economy. And again, none of them understands what real war is. They never could. They know buzzwords. They are basically, as Maria Zakharova stated, today, she stated about one of the guys, but in reality, it applies completely. And I quote her, uneducated, uncultured people. Simple as that. And so, as the result, when everything goes wrong, nothing happens as they planned, because they are not good planners on anything, especially military. And here we are today, Europe and combined West is lost. They lost the war, period. There's no, other, which is going around it. And fact is, the fact that the bunch of the low lives, one-cell organisms, which we know as the establishment media in European Union and in the United States, still continue to pretend that something is happening there in their favor, that tells you everything what you need about those people. So, and they killed more than Lavrov said more than 1 million, but actually it's more than 2 million. They killed more than 2 million Ukrainian soldiers. They wounded, because they were committing suicide by cop, the famous thing. They went to the country which you cannot defeat militarily, period. You cannot, I wrote number of books, I'm writing the fifth one. You cannot defeat Russia militarily, period. The people do not understand. And I talk about the bunch of the cretins who grew out of the Cold War 1.0, not understanding what they're looking at. They, for some reason, thought that the Soviet Union collapsed, because of it collapsed because of the internal problems, which have been endemic, so to speak, organic to its structure. But they believe that they control the universe, You need to have orderlies, and restraining, jacket, straight jacket on them, because those are these people are idiots. And today, when even they begin to see what happened, And today was a very interesting article about one of those war propaganda criminals from the Institute for the Study of War. They were betting on things, that's your think tank. They were making money from betting on the all kinds of scenarios. So that tells you everything you need to know about those people. As the result, when they understand now that everything they invested so much, they stole Russian money. The Russian money are not there. It's now fact. Russians are beginning to play this, with the cat with the almost dead mouse when it begins, push it with its, uh, uh, whatever they call it, paws, and same is happening here. Everybody knows Brussels is absolutely under strain, but Russians know where it is all going. They know the money is not there. They have been stolen. And that's why also another reason for the panic, because, and here comes this, which Russians know, who initiated this whole thing with Russian funds and investigation of the corruption. Of course, Washington, of course, Trump administration. So, and that tells you something, okay? And now we see that Europe is being killed. Well, they killed themselves. Okay, let's start with this. Russians just merely defeated NATO militarily, and political part comes after that, because obviously war is the continuation of the policy by other means, as Clausewitz states, his famous one-liner. So there we go. That's the New World Order. And when you mentioned C5, yep, it's not going to happen, but it is indicative. This is really indicative that somebody in Washington told Trump, here's the real spread, here's the thing, here are the numbers, we lost. So for Trump now, and Russians again offered off-ramp. It's the privilege which superpowers must, provide to each other. So here's the off-ramp. Get out. You're not going to be victor, as he tried to be. So, but as even the Russian journalists write today, is that he might get some profitable things out of it, So Russia will not allow United States to become the arbiter, the judge of this. No. But here's okay, we remove you there. Europe is going to pay the price, and it's already paying it.
Yeah. Andre, you remember when the war started, they were assuming that Russia is the Soviet Union, just a little,
Yeah.
copy of Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Just go in and everything would collapse. It's the house of cards. The economy is not
Yeah.
working.
That's the idea. Yeah.
And their dominance in the media, you remember, the way that a lot of propaganda, by the way, going on.
It's primarily propaganda. Yeah.
Convincing the young people to get out of Russia. This is not your war. You remember all of that. I don't know if they were still in the same sort of mindset. I'm talking about Europeans, not the United States.
Again, some of them are, and they are due to, as I already stated, you can quote me.
But what similarity, Andre? What similarity? What is the similarity? What are the similarities between Russia today and Soviet? I see nothing.
No, no. I can tell you one thing. Economically,
Military
Russia is
industrial
much more
complex.
powerful than the Soviet Union. That I can tell you this. And militarily, this is way more powerful. Many people don't understand it. But that's the whole thing. You need to have the STEM background, military STEM background, to understand this. You need to explain to people how the system integrates, how it affects tactical, operational, and strategic levels of the warfare. And when I say Russia won the arms race, it's not hyperbole. Russia not only won it, she won it by the knockout. And that's the thing. The technology, the technological paradigm of the warfare changed dramatically. Some people say, oh, it's drones. No, it's not just drones. Drones are just part. It's for people who are very primitive, they can understand, oh, yeah, this thing flies and kills somebody. No, this is the system of the systems. This is the whole new way of the armed conflict, which you can, it's difficult to explain even how those things change and how those interconnections are dynamic within this system, and how suddenly, of course, they don't read Военная мысль, which is military thought, which is the main and probably the greatest military publication in the world, about how the completely new paradigm in operational planning and conduct of the operations, and now strategy. Those incredible articles are coming out. Russians are saying, "Yeah, look at this. This is what we learned." Obviously, not everything they say there, but here what we learned. This is the whole thing. Everything which we knew before, that doesn't apply, and it doesn't apply because the basically, well, how to put it, a new generation of the weapons have been deployed, and they are terrifyingly well, terrifyingly effective. And the Russians just liberated Seversk, and yeah, Vladimir Putin says to okay, now on to Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. So there we go. Yeah, simple. Very simple. Oh, not simple. It's very complex. You need to have a very serious military primer. I mean, in a military primer, you can get only into the serious academies. United States doesn't have those anymore. It can still teach you fly in the U.S. Air Force Academy, or they can show you how to command the tank platoon in U.S. Academy in the West Point, but that's about it. It was hollowed out so much. I cannot even explain to you. And again, when you have people like all those Kellogg skins and Petriuses running around parading themselves as clowns, it's stupefying. It is stupefying, literally. And not that there are Russian generals who are not like that. There are a couple of the imbeciles who run around, parading themselves as cretins. But if you take a look at the overall spectrum of things, it's incomparable. So, and many people, again, as I already stated, people of the brains like Danny Davis or Doug McGregor, they will not be allowed, into the high level of military power in the United States. As a result, you basically have people like Mark Milley and all those people who lie, cheat, because they want their sinecures, and what can I say? They paraded themselves as the utterly incompetent, uncultured, and uneducated people, which they have. It started in 2023 when many people didn't understand. The war was won in 2023. They just didn't understand it. So they, as always, the West does, like Wehrmacht and Axis forces in Europe, they have been beaten in Stalingrad, okay? So, but Wehrmacht still had the audacity to come out and say, oh, they beat us because of traditional BS, oh, the frost and all that. Yeah, Russians, of course, always had in their trenches balmy 72 degrees Fahrenheit, while obviously Wehrmacht was freezing to death. Oh, no, it works both ways. But, well, then they waited for Kursk battle. Then Russians defeated them in the summer conditions, the creme de la creme. And after that, the war was essentially over. It was clear that they will never go out on offensive. That's exactly what happened. And they would have some counter strikes here and there, but strategically, they haven't been able to conduct anything. And as a result, in 1945, Russians, Red Army entered Berlin. And that was it. Same happening here. Same pattern. Because those people are morons. They do not understand. They learn nothing. And they, of course, do not know anything about Russia. Simple as that.
Andrei, how do you see the concept that the British are behind both proxy wars, one in Ukraine, the other one in the Middle East, with the case of Israel? The British being behind all of this together with the Zionists in the United States. Because you see somehow in Ukraine, I was surprised at how Israel is seeing the conflict in Ukraine when they try to support Ukraine. What is that? I always was asking this question. And it seems to me that the British are the key in the whole situation. They're connecting all these lines together.
As a Russian special counter intelligence specialists and spies essentially say, MI6 is good, but it's not that good. They love to pretend that they promote themselves very much, as they does, for example, CIA. In reality, I mean, they are good in some sense, but primarily they are terrorist organizations. I mean, they are good at false flags. They are good at terrorism. So yeah, they conduct those operations. They call them operations and think that they are great. They are not. They essentially, terrorism, what they do, sabotage, is the weapon of the weak. And so we saw it all over the place. But Israel is actually does many things on its own, because obviously they are really distraught over the fact that Russian army now is on the Syria-Israel's border, and Israel can do nothing about it. If they attack Russians, I mean, good Lord, that's not going to be some option. The Israel will cease to exist, So, and Russians will not be as benevolent as as Iran was, which was convinced to stop pummeling Israel into utter submission. So, and that's why they are desperate. They hate Russian gods, So, and they try to, just do nasty thing, Okay, if we can provide weapons to Ukraine, will provide weapons to Ukraine. Are British behind it? They're part of it, definitely part of their terrorism and essentially piracy on the high seas, like they attack tankers. This is the obviously special boat division service of England, United Kingdom, supported by old people like Moran, this Sir Radakin admiral, who just think that they can do something with the UAVs alone. That tells you obviously level of their military incompetence, but they will try to, it's like when you get the psychotic episode patient, in the asylum, who becomes rowdy, and orderlies try to constrain him or her, and they try to scratch you, they scream, they spit at you, that's United Kingdom today, So eventually it's restrained and thrown into the padded room and things like that. This is their level. Again, I am on record, they do not have even the proper military education. Mostly it's, this kind of things which they created about themselves, primarily mythology, that they somehow control the world, and bankers, London City is kind of the center of the universe. It's all crap. Honestly, it's primarily promoted by people who have vested interest. Now they are hurting badly because Russian told Lloyd's showed Lloyd's the middle finger and said, "You are poor," which it is. United Kingdom is poor, actually, and Russia is very rich. We said, we don't need you. We will basically insure our ships ourselves, and that's it. Can you imagine what it means for Lloyd's, who was sitting for 200 years, essentially squeezing everything by, doing nothing, insuring all those ships, the shipping, and they know where it is coming, because especially Arctic route opening, and then suddenly Russians getting the naval base in Sudan, and it's just like, for them, it's a nightmare. And they are desperate, and as people, they are filled with rage. English aristocracy, English elite, they hate Russian gods. They don't mind Russian children being killed. That's who they are. And go to parliament, spit on anybody. Most of them will be like that. They would be very glad to, well, you saw yourself. I mean, and the same goes for the British media, which are essentially war criminals. The same goes for the Western establishment media. They are war criminals.
The problem is that they see themselves through the power of the United States.
Yeah. Well, not anymore. That's the whole thing. This is what I was speaking about now for the second decade here. You can go to my blog and say, United States is not exactly a European power per se. United States is the thing on its own. It is the essentially civilization, because United States is a civilization state, actually. It is very much distinct from the Europeans. Americans are distinct from the Europeans, very many. They think differently, they operate differently, and that's what many people don't understand. There is very little in common, really, between average American dude from somewhere heartland of America and the guy from France. They won't probably get along that well, So, and it doesn't mean that the Americans will be right, but they are different. America politically is different, although corrupt as Europeans are. But again, there is one thing which is really amazing in the United States. It's a Bill of Rights. Okay? It's a Bill of Rights, and especially First and Second Amendments. Europeans can only dream about it, okay? The American Constitution, badly, it's tried, it's rusty, it's kind of, in many respects, obsolete, but it works, okay? That's the thing. In Europe, it doesn't matter what you have. It's just basically totalitarian, well, it's 1984. It's Orwellian reality, which is descending upon them. And eventually, for example, in France, they will be beaten into the Sharia, and probably, in UK, same goes on. And I don't see how how Europeans can rise up. I mean, I don't see it. They can go on some demonstrations, obviously, but that's about it. So, and majority is driven now by the combination of the economic factors and cultural ones. That's why when we say the West is over, it's over. The West, as the old Europe, is over. It's not the West anymore. And that's what I'm saying. And many people don't like to hear it, but the truth is, Russia is Western civilization. It preserved practically everything good that Western civilization gave, from the science, from culture, from arts, Russians are very, deep in love with, things which are being denied today in European Union is absolutely, whatever, colonial. Yes, Europe will have to pay for its crimes in the colonial age because it's profited greatly. But yeah, you can go to Russia now and you see the West as it's supposed to be. So, and many people cannot take it, lightly. So, and that's what we have, and that is why I've been on record for years, for 10 years. Europe is done. They did at that time they didn't know it. Today we know it. It's over.
Andre, you've mentioned C5, which is core five. Politico has reported that the Trump administration is discussing the idea of creating
Yeah,
alternative to G7. In this new, they're calling it core five or C5. It's the United States, China, Russia, India, and Japan coming
yeah.
together. And how much of change that would bring to the planet Earth, because Europe is not part of it.
No, it's
Europe has gambled everything in the war in Ukraine.
yeah, they lost. Well, they're stupid, but yeah, I've been talking about it. If you read my blog for the last 11 years, I was, hammering this idea that everything they know about economy and the power of nations is zero. It's garbage. Basically, you go to any so-called political science. It's not science. It's academic fraud. It doesn't exist. But they teach that nonetheless. All those PhDs, morons with PhDs from Harvard or Stanford, they teach this thing, not understanding what they're dealing with. The same like this stupid Sarah Payne, which teaches strategy. Woman who never commanded a platoon in her life. She teaches in U.S. Naval War College strategy about Russia. She has no clue about Russia. And so, apart from other things which are related to the real power of the nations, I've been on it. I never included Japan, but I was always about this big four. Three of them are genuine superpowers: United States, Russia, and China. And of course, India is trying to come up, and they're dealing with this. They are working on that. So you look at this. Yeah, these are four largest economies in the world, and my video is going to be coming up fairly soon today. Also, I was talking about. It's difficult to explain to people that, for example, Russia produces steel alone 12 times more than United Kingdom. Together with the iron, it's more than like 15 times more, the steel and iron. And these are critical things for the infrastructure, for the development. Does Japan, does Germany, or even France have the manned space program? No, they cannot launch people into space. France has Ariane program, but that's about it. So can they create something like the true early warning system on the high elliptical orbits, such as Tundra, 36 kilometers in apogee? No. So can they create what Russians build now, a nuclear fleet with these tempos? No. So when you begin to look at it, it's just like, who the hell are you guys? Oh yeah, we're old, things. Yeah, well, you are middle of the road countries with economies which in France 90% of economy, 90%, it's a third world economy of the services, or selling, and even productive economies mostly like Louis Vuitton. Oh yeah, ladies' bags, which most of them cost like the small car. Oh, our GDP is great. Yeah, sure. Measure it in whatever. Measure into tangerines, mandarins. Oranges. So if you measure it like this, as they do, including prostitution and drug sales, they count as the part of the gross domestic product. I mean, what do you expect? But in reality, they're midgets. They are especially midgets militarily. And again, the only place, and again, it wasn't them. It was the heritage of the last great Frenchman, who was, of course, Charles de Gaulle, who left France with the nuclear deterrent. Other than that, good Lord.
Yeah. I think, Andrei, how your understanding of the dynamic in Ukraine before wrapping up this session, do you think that the United States, after all, needs to talk, it needs to make an agreement with Russia without the European?
Yeah,
Because
that's the
Europeans
whole.
are not,
Absolutely.
they're
Europeans are
not
not.
there anymore.
They're not there anymore. I stated from the get-go. It was, go to my blog from 2014. It is between, well, obviously Europe was like those chihuahuas participating in this, very much so, and especially being driven, these globalists. If you look at the Biden administration or Obama administration, they are globalist administrations, and they have their friends in all high places in Europe. This was essentially a globalist mafia. That's who they are. Macron is, all those German chancellors or these imbeciles from the 10 Downing Street in London. Look at them. Apart from being stupid, they are globalists. This owl Davos culture, who think people who do not know first thing about anything, but they thought that, oh yeah, we can control the world. But in the end, the main driver behind it was the United States, obviously, because NATO is the United States. So United States priorities changed because it was defeated militarily together with Europe. But United States, as I already stated, many people, I repeat it again, in real world, the big guys, they is considering the nuclear world, okay? We're talking about nuclear weapons and the such power. Russian and American arsenals can wipe the life on the earth 5 times over. Everything will die simply, okay? And so and we're looking now at some kind of new, we don't even know what it is, I mean, the weapon systems being developed. So they have to communicate. They live in a totally different universe. Superpowers operate on a different level, and they must cooperate. They must prevent the war. And what is important, Trump administration understood that. And unlike it was with Biden and all kinds of people like, Victoria Nuland and all those criminals from the State Department and who were driving this, catastrophe. Catastrophe for the Western world too, by the way. That's Ukraine will cease to exist as we know it. It's already ceased. It's just that it's the military arrangements which are happening right now. And so, yeah, here it is. That's what the thing why I was predicting essentially since the inception. This is exactly how it happened today, and United States and Russia will have to work with each other, and they will have to talk because they bear responsibility for the peaceful coexistence, and they bear responsibility for preserving life of humanity. And just little thing. Yesterday, Soyuz spaceship, the capsule returned 2 Russian cosmonauts and 1 American astronaut from the International Space Station. And United States also blew its chances with the cooperation with Russia in space. We again, Biden administration, but yeah, there are a lot of things which Russia and the United States can do together, and there are a lot, and I mean a lot. Just look at the northern slope of Alaska and those ice fields going into the ocean. There's a lot of wealth in there. Americans know that. But of course, they have the people who are tied to European bank cabals and neocons, Israeli forces who do not want that. While in reality, Russians offered to the United States already before the Anchorage meeting that say, hey, we have this nuclear icebreaker fleet. which nobody has in the world. And we know we have so much in the northern slope. You will need that. Do you want to do that? And many people said, yes, we want. But of course, then it was sabotaged, which is always the case, So, but it is what it is today. The war is lost. Russia won. Just live with that. Let's move on.
I believe that the project Ukraine was defeated in the mind from the point of view of the establishment in the United States, was defeated the same day that Victoria Nuland she has decided to resign, because that is that the project in the
Well,
mind of
that's
this.
the part of it. Yeah, that's the part of it. And when you look attentively at these fraudulent organizations, which is, by the way, Kagan's clan, these are the rabid Rus, not Russophobes. They hate Russians. They hate Russian gods. And so, like Institute for Study of War, have been caught betting on things, changing maps, things like that. Sure, that tells you everything you need to know. Share propaganda. I mean, warmongers, war criminals, and as a result, yeah, then they everything else, but uh, real competent diplomats or competent military leaders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrei, for being with us today. Great
My
pleasure,
pleasure.
as always.
Mhm. Okay,
See
bye
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.